Alright, now this is a demo disc, the 1998 Squaresoft Collector's CD Volume 1 on PlayStation. This was a demo disc that came with the game Parasite Eve, and I think it's most noticeable for having the inclusion of a demo of the game Xenogears on it. But I think at the time most people were probably more excited to see the Final Fantasy VIII video that was on it. Which, because that's advertised at the top and Xenogears is only on the left side. So let's watch the videos first. I guess we're just going to see cutscenes here. You know, it's hard, even though it seems weird that a person might be more excited to watch a video, it's hard to really explain how big of a thing the Final Fantasy series was at this point. It had always been a bit of a niche product in the West until the 7th game in the series just burst onto the scene and became one of the biggest things around. And then there was a lot of anticipation for its sequel. This music does not fit what I'm looking at. Oh, alright, it's a little better. There was a lot of anticipation going in for this game. Oh, look! Battle scenes, gameplay. Even if 7 had just, or even if 8 rather, had just really shit the bed on release and been a terrible game, it still would have been a huge success because, especially at the time when word of mouth had to actually travel by word of mouth, they still would have made a lot of sales right away, and then people would have had to realize the game was terrible later on. So it was almost a foregone conclusion that 8 was going to be a huge success. And people were just gobbling up any bit of information of it they could get. Square had always been a company that was really good at keeping things under wraps. They didn't have a lot of leakers dropping things they didn't want people to know about, story details and all that kind of stuff. So I knew only what they wanted me to know about this game before its release. So anything that they did decide to tell us, like what was in this demo, people, you know, soaked up like a sponge. Bushido Blade 2. Now I'd seen that there was a demo video, rather, of Bushido Blade on the, I think it might have been the last disc that I had done in this series. A series that I've never played. I don't remember this at all. CGA doesn't look all that good. The pre-rendered graphics don't look that great. I mean, I guess for the time it was alright, but I mean, if we're comparing it to what we had seen in the 8, especially Final Fantasy VIII, which there was a video of on this disc, it kind of looks cheap. I guess not all the development studios over at Squaresoft were created equal. Though Square was known for, in general, known for their high-quality pre-rendered graphics. What's Lightweight? Is Lightweight the developer? I don't know what Lightweight is. I'll check it out later, but okay, I didn't see any gameplay in that at all. And since there's a 98 release date, you'd think they'd show something. Brave Fencer Musashi. I don't know what this is either. Another game that I never played. Is this an RPG? I see HP at the bottom. Or is it a platformer? Or some kind of... I mean, it looks different. I just don't know what the hell I'm looking at. Oh well, okay. At least it was short.
Step away from the gear. Then it's about history or processing.
Xeno, just different pronunciations of the same word. Is this just a video? I thought this had a demo in it. Showing a lot of cutscenes from pretty late in the game here. I guess without context, you really can get away with that kind of thing. Not spoiling story details if you don't know what the hell's going on. This was a game I didn't really know what to think of prior to actually receiving it as a Christmas gift. I didn't... oh, alright, we're starting up proper now. It was a game I knew existed, but I didn't know what it was. I knew it had something to do with the robots because I had read had seen, or skimmed over perhaps, a preview in, I think, a GamePro magazine. Beyond that, I didn't know what the hell this game was. Oh, okay, so there is a demo here. Okay. And this demo disc released, but the game Parasite Eve I didn't get until 1999, which was after Xenogears or Xeno. I'm gonna just say Xeno. We'll have to just live with that. Until after I had gotten and played through 100 times the game Xenogears. So this demo disc found its way into my possession well after I had played the actual game. So maybe I played through this demo once just to see what the differences were. And you know what? Yeah, I did. I played through this once. Years later, maybe like 2010 or something like that, maybe.
This is an emergency. Level 1 alert. Omega 1 restarting.
They're actually going to go through the whole intro here. That's a little bit surprising. And they have the English voice acting. I was kind of thinking they wouldn't. What year did Parasite Eve release? Was it in 1990? It must have been in 1998. So yeah, it must have been pretty close to the release of Xenogears that this demo disc was released.
Roger. Activating self-destruct bolts.
It's definitely an odd intro in the sense that it's got a weird mixture of computer-generated backgrounds and hand-drawn characters.
And its base logic is being rewritten. Ergo area is increasing. An internal plane is forming. Switching to space displacement mode. Alpha 1.
It's also very, very out of context. If you play through the game, you'll eventually find out what is happening here, but these characters are spouting a lot of techno-babble, and you're on some kind of a spaceship, and something's attacking it, and all of that, and you don't really have any idea what the hell is happening, but once the game actually starts, though, you're in a completely different setting. None of these characters come back. You never find out who any of them are. It's weird. So you see this video, and then you start playing the game, and then it feels completely disconnected. You're not looking at this. You're not looking at these people. You're not looking at this spaceship. You're in a completely different environment. Everything is different. And I guess maybe you could figure out, and I mean, I guess I did figure out that the game takes place at some point in the distant future from these events, and that the game takes place on the planet that this ship explodes over top of. That's not too big of a stretch. But figuring out the connection, what is happening here and how it relates to what goes on in the game, is the weird part. It's a Star Trek sound effect there. Considering how big the explosion must have been, this planet has a ring system. How did any of that ship survive? As is common, there's in the era when translations to English are a little bit problematic. They're not done all of that well. There are some weird little inconsistencies in the story regarding exactly how this woman relates to the characters we know later on in the game. And oh, by the way, I should have said this a little while ago, but spoiler alert, if you ever want to play through this game, I am going to spoil the shit out of it. I mean, yeah. I don't think I can talk about this demo. This was the first game that I did a Let's Play series on this channel. And that has actually been about 10 years ago now. It's been a long-ass time. So it's been a while since I've really sat down and talked about this on this channel. So I might just go crazy with it. And I'm definitely not going to end up, I'm not going to restrict myself to talking about the demo itself. I'm going to go on about the entire game. I believe this demo will end. It's going to take me like 45 minutes or so to get through this. Oh, I'm not reading any of this text. Well, I got an idea what's going on here. See, we have that intro cinematic, which shows one, with no context as to what's going on, event that happens on the Eldridge. And then you move on into this screen here that info dumps. Now that's kind of an unfortunate thing, because I'm not a big fan of info dumps. I mean, I understand that they have to happen sometimes, and here, maybe this one has to happen. But it's an info dump of something that is completely unrelated to the events that we had just seen on the screen. About a war that's been going on for 100 or so years between two sides here. One side was winning, then the other side starts to win when a third party intervenes. And then we land in Lahan here. And we have our fight. there are different ways that you can introduce a game or start a game off. Now, this game kind of does the opposite of what Final Fantasy VII did. Closer to what 8 did in the intro. Now, 8, when it started the game out, had this short cinematic and then threw you into a kind of intense situation in the game right away. Put you starting the first mission as fights, as all this kind of stuff going on. Xenogears here does something different, and that it has a fast-paced and all that exciting cinematic in the beginning, and an info dump, and then it shows you this scene here, which is an event that I don't think we will see in the demo later on, which is when the gears land in the town and just start fucking the place up, fighting each other. But we're gonna flashback here, and we're gonna be in the village the day before. I think the entire game will take place during this day before, the entire demo. Man, I don't know what you're trying to paint, but it's terrible. I wonder if you can do all of the things that you could do, like look at the paintings. I'm actually a little surprised that they were able, I guess there really wasn't that firm of a limitation on how high resolution your textures could be. You just had to make sure that you didn't overuse the memory pool of the PlayStation 1. Like, look at the wall there and the low resolution of its texture there, and then the painting there, which is just a texture map, but how much higher resolution it is. It has kind of a weird jarring mix, but I guess if you had enough memory to put that there, you could. I mean, we see the same texture repeated over and over again on the wall, so... forget the spider web? Yep. I am not talking to you, lady. You will take forever. Oh, there we go. You know, honestly, if I played this demo prior to getting the actual game, I probably would not have really given that big of a crap about it. There was no hype for me going into the release of this, so playing this demo and getting stuck into a conversation about a wedding and wandering around town and all that kind of stuff wouldn't really have piqued my interest. Which is why the demo for that, it wasn't on this disc, but the demo for Final Fantasy VIII was the best demo that they could have done because it had a lot of action to it, even though the actual beginning of that game is rather tame. Okay, so just for context, this guy is getting married to that boy's older sister tomorrow, and it's, well, since we know that the town's gonna get attacked, I'm guessing that doesn't end too well. Let loose in the town. We don't let any men know. You don't let the husband see her. But whatever. This is a bit of another weird little thing that they put here, because Alice will end up dying during the attack. And she'll die as a result of something Faye ends up doing. Or at least, physically, she actually dies because he kills her. But it's hard to say that it was his fault. It's kind of a weird... Weird way of thinking about that, but having this weird little scene here saying that she's got sort of cold feet about her wedding that's coming up, and she thinks about what might have been in the event that she had met Faye when they were younger. He's been there for a couple of years, but I guess maybe she has been in a relationship with what's his name, Timothy, for a while. So she's thinking about what might have been if she had met Faye before, and maybe Faye should be getting married to Faye right now. I don't know. But putting this connection between these two characters adds just a little bit more impact for when she does eventually die. Of course, you won't see that in this demo. Faye is got the sort of typical, overly typical character trope of character with amnesia. He doesn't know who he is. He has a name. He has his first name and he has his last name. I'm assuming he has his last name. But he doesn't know where he came from. Now, it turns out he has a much bigger... Well, anybody who's going to have amnesia is going to be involved in some bigger conspiracy. I'm not going to talk to that little bastard. Dan. Oh, the fuck? Oh, okay. Didn't you guys read the script? We're breaking the fourth wall here. It's just a demo version, not the final take. You're changing the story, Bart. Since when were we meant to be a hot couple? Okay. Oh, they're all level 1. And they all have an insane amount of HP and EP. What? Okay, our characters, I guess their stats are where they should be. They all have equipment that they... Well, no, I guess maybe their equipment isn't strange for when they appear in the game. But... Okay, so they have high HP and EP, so there's not a chance in hell I'm losing this fight. None of them have any gears. Wow, look at this. Look at all the powers she has. She's got all of her magic. So does Faye. Do they have any death blows? How many? This is weird. These characters would introduce later on in the game, although not at the same time. Ellie will be introduced earlier, after the city is destroyed. Oh, look at this. Oh, shit. I got all of the death blows. All of the death blows. Look at this. This is the most powerful one right here. Okay, he's not gonna have, he doesn't have an X triangle X death blow. Neither should Ellie. Ellie actually disappears from the game before I would typically end up having all of the death blows. So, I'm not sure I've ever... Well, okay, that looked like shit. It's supposed to be an elemental. Ellie will get introduced later on in the game after the attack on the town. she's going to be wandering around in the woods. What happened to the wolf? I didn't fight the wolf. She will partially be responsible, partially, though not really, responsible for the attack on the town that happens tonight. And then she'll join up with Faye for a short time, and then disappear for a few hours. Then she'll be reintroduced in the game, and then she'll be part of the main party until pretty late in the game, where she'll... Damn it, I couldn't jump because the battle started. See, there's the wolf over there. Same thing. Let me, she'll disappear from the game when she gets defeated in a fight, and then she won't appear again until the end. Oh, look at all of this. Let's magic our way through this fight. You flip a coin at him. I thought I wasn't going to die. Ellie's are sort of our mage. Aqua Lord. Bart will be introduced a little ways after Ellie. He'll be more of an antagonistic force in the fight. You know, I always hated Ellie's magic in this game because she should have done more damage than that. I mean, it won the fight, but she should have done more damage than that. He'll be a bit more of an antagonist for a short time. He'll fight Faye, and the two will be forced to work together, even though they're not particularly fond of the idea, but eventually they'll come to be friends. That's how that kind of thing works. Alright, so what do we got? It's way over the top. I guess maybe they wanted to make you feel like you had a lot of abilities, because the beginning of the game here, you tend not to. You don't have a whole hell of a lot to do as far as your attacks. Faye has like an attack, and he has a magic attack and a healing thing, but you don't have any death blows. In fact, I have 7 points to use on all my battles here in this demo, but I only have 3, I believe, in the final game. And as the game progresses, you'll slowly gain more ability points to use in your fights. Damn it. Let's get into one more fight, so I can explain the battle system just in case you don't know. So you have your different ability, you have your different options here, your defense, your combo, we're not going to do that. But you have, and your magic, but your attack command is the unique thing here. See, we have 3 different options. We have triangle 1 point, square 2 points, cross 3 points. Out of a total of 7, we piece together our combinations. So if I hit triangle, he'll do a triangle attack. If I hit square, he'll do a square attack using 2 points, but more powerful. Cross 3 points, but more powerful attack, but more likely to miss. So you can sort of just piece together random attack combinations like this, but you won't really achieve much. But if you end your attack combination with a cross attack, you have the chance of performing a death blow. And it's only going to happen if your character knows how to do the death blow. So since all of our characters here have every death blow, we can do a combination like that, and Ellie will do a death blow here. Now, going through the game, you actually have to train your characters to be able to perform these death blows. So, firing off a bunch of regular attacks on enemies will train your characters up on their death blows. Now, there's a second battle system when you fight in Gears, which I do not think we will see in this game, in this demo. But when you have those, it's a completely different battle system and a little bit more generic. It's like you have your attacks, you have all this, but the ability point or point system that we have here doesn't apply. You launch your attacks, and then you could potentially do a death blow, but it's not based on how many attack points you have, it's based on what level you're currently at. And by level, I don't mean your character level, I mean your attack level. So if I were to throw an attack like that, but not perform a death blow, I would elevate to attack level 1. Now the next turn, if I do the same thing again, I could be level 2, provided my character's high enough of a character level. Or attack level 3, or attack level infinite. Now the death blows that a gear can do will happen only if your character has the equivalent death blow on the ground, like what we're playing here. So if I had my gears, which I don't, I would be able to perform all kinds of death blows with because I have all of the death blows on foot. Shit, I tried to do a death blow there, but I fucked it up. Did I fall down the hole? Oh, no, I'm up here. Fully rotatable camera, which is pretty cool. Oh, they're gonna leave. I definitely like this graphic style because what the Final Fantasy games did was they took 3D characters and placed them on a 2D background. Now because the PlayStation doesn't have extraordinary amounts of 3D processing power, it was limited on what it could achieve on either. So you have a high detail character like in 8 or 9, Final Fantasy 8 or 9, or say the Resident Evil series is another good example of this. Don't eat it. Oh, you idiot. Resident Evil series also did this, where you have a static 2D background but rendered with a high detail. Then you place your 3D characters on top of that, and that gives you the ability to have the high detail characters on a high detail background. Oh, I guess I can't just run over and see him here. I gotta go talk to his wife. Now, what Xenogears did was, I think, a more interesting thing. In some ways, for the gameplay, it works out better. For cinematics, it works out pretty good too. Is they took a 2D character, so they can have well, he's not high detailed. None of these characters are high detailed, so I guess maybe that's the downside of that argument. But they could place a high detail 2D character on a 3D environment, so they're only rendering the environment instead of the characters, and it allows them to have higher detail. Now, at first glance, this game is not going to come across as though it looks as good as, say, a game in the Final Fantasy series. This screenshot is uglier than any screenshot you're going to see in Final Fantasy VIII. And there's well, let's go back inside for a second. There's a lot more detail in this environment than there was outside, but it still looks ugly by comparison. But this ability to rotate the camera around adds a lot in terms of gameplay. It also adds a lot in terms of what they could do for like a kind of cinematic feel, as cameras can pan around and all that kind of stuff in a much more pleasing way. Okay, so we got to see Zakuzuki here. He's supposed to be the doctor, and by that I mean a medical doctor, but he lives a good ways outside of town. And he's a hobbyist mechanic, and he repairs things and builds things and all that kind of stuff. As it turns out in this game, a lot of the technology that they use, in fact, like I'm assuming they do build some stuff, but a lot of the technology they use is just leftover garbage that came down from when that spaceship crashed in the beginning of the game. So, like, it's a good chance all of these machines were just machines that came off of that ship. Though I guess maybe some stuff was built by people. Why is it shooting out steam? But even still, he comes across as a little bit of a strange fella to be a country doctor here. Nobody else seems to have any interest in machines, and even though it is the societies in this world use technology, the people of that village that we came out of come across as pretty primitive. They're sort of on the outskirts of civilization there. So you got this doctor here who likes machines, repairing machines and all that kind of stuff, but he chooses to live some country lifestyle. Of course, spoiler alert once again, we're going to find out later on in the story that his reason for being here is actually to observe Faye and keep an eye on him. Remember, he's got amnesia, he doesn't remember his life before he arrived in the village, and that's because, well, he was a pretty important person prior to his arrival there. And he was working for one of the large militaries that are engaged in that war that was talked about in the info dump in the beginning of the game. But they have even bigger plans for him than that. And they eventually plan on using him as a kind of, I guess, a battery, a power source for the monster that was attacking that ship in the beginning of the game. When that ship was destroyed, when it self-destructed, it realized that it was screwed, that it was going to be destroyed and it was going to get stuck on this planet. So it hatched this plan that it would eventually rebuild itself. It would reconstitute itself using the biomass of humans. But there were no humans on that planet, so it had, and I'm leaving out some details here, but it had a woman, that woman we saw in the beginning, in some sort of like techno magic vat of shit, I don't know. And it inserted its kind of genetic code into that woman, thinking that she would eventually like populate the world with humans. And then the humans' biomass would be used to rebuild the machine called Deus. That's what it was called. So she was impregnated with a number of different people who would see to that goal eventually. Now, we're not going to see anything remotely touching on that topic during this demo. But Faye was going to be a part of that. Faye was going to be a part of that. Not that he himself was actually a part of Deus, like all the other humans in the game are. But he would serve as kind of a substitute for the power source that Deus was supposed to use. Of course, it's the scope of the game has to expand greatly, and it keeps stepping its way up the game sort of gets bigger and bigger as it goes on. So here we have Faye living the simple life in the village and all that kind of stuff. And then the events that will happen at the end here of the Gears attacking the village will happen. And that'll cause Faye to sort of like leave this area, and then he'll get drawn into a conflict of larger scope, and that'll be Bart, the blonde-haired guy with the whip that we saw earlier, in his kind of struggle to regain the throne of one of the kingdoms. And then it'll grow in scope larger when you realize that, well, that isn't even the entire thing. That's just a sort of like side conflict in a larger war. Then you'll get involved in that, and then that will only be sort of like a side conflict in a larger conspiracy of people living in the sky that are controlling the world. Then we'll find out that they're really just puppets of the master plan, which was the resurrection of this technological monster, Deus. And then you even beyond that, you find out that there was a larger conflict or larger thing going on than that, which has to do with the god of this universe. And like it just keeps expanding like that. So everything I was talking about before is kind of several steps down that chain. There's no north on this compass. Oh, it's there, you just can't see it well. So that's several steps down the chain from this demo that we're looking at here. See, look at this. This 3D environment allows us to pan the camera across and look at all of these different aspects of the environment, and it does. I mean, I don't know if this battle could have conveyed the way that it is here if the environments were pre-rendered. Notice the gears are done in 3D geometry. They're not big sprites running around. There is, if I do have to offer a complaint about the story of this game, aside from what I mentioned earlier with the weird inconsistencies probably resulting from poor translation, I would say that it has to come down with being a little bit, some aspects of it are overly contrived. It comes across as a bit of a stretch of logic to say that all the events in the game could have played out the way that they did. See, the main antagonist, you could say that Deus is the main antagonist, but really the main antagonist is a man named Carillion who's pulling the strings in the attempt to resurrect Deus. And he has plans for a lot of the different people, but it seems highly unlikely. His plan was overly complex, and it required way too many things to go right that could easily have gone wrong for him. Like, for example, what we have here. This battle, it will be discovered that the reason why this battle is occurring is because Ellie, the redheaded girl who we'd seen earlier, had been the leader of a raiding party that had went and tried to steal this gear here. This giant blue robot. And they stole it. And as they were fleeing, she kinda got shot down. And she landed in this village. And the pursuing gears engaged them in the village, and that's how it started the battle. Okay, so make Ellie feel guilty about what went on. But then later it will be found that this whole thing was intentional. She wasn't accidentally shot down here, she was intentionally shot down here. And this battle occurred for the sole reason of depositing this gear in front of Faye, having him climb into it, and then him taking his first step towards realizing his true potential. Because, like I said before, they wanted to use him as a battery to power Deus, but he can't just do it. He needs to realize his potential, the power that he has. And in order to do that, he needs to feel grief. He needs to use his power. He needs to be forced into situations he doesn't want to be in. So a lot of the conflict that they put him through is just trying to get him to realize his power. Of course, that doesn't make any sense. He could have been killed here. What happens if he doesn't survive this encounter? What happens if, instead of jumping into the gear, he runs away? What happens if he just burns to death in one of the fires in one of the buildings? I mean, too many, like, okay, you know what? There is a gear fight in this game. I thought the demo would have ended by now. Okay, so I can show you the gear fight. So, it looks similar. I mean, you have Charge, which is defense. You have Booster, which speeds you up. Ether Machine, which is your magic. Item. I don't think I'm using items in a gear fight. But see, I have Fuel 10, Fuel 20, Fuel 30. It seems similar, but I'm only, regardless of which one of these I pick, I'm only going to be able to use one. So let's do a Fuel 10 attack, which is the weakest attack. And the gears survived. But the second... Now, I'm at attack level 1. So, if I did a fuel level 10 attack, I'd have the option of using a death blow. Now, I have the triangle, square, or cross death blows, and the cross one is actually the most powerful, even though it uses the least amount of fuel, and it's only because I have way too many death blows. I'm not gonna do this. I wanna get to attack level 3. Now you can build attack levels up by performing attacks without using a death blow. But you're going to use up fuel, so notice at the bottom, you can't read it because it's rendering wrong, but it says fuel down there, and it says I have 1,200 total. You'll use up fuel during all of your fights, and that kind of limits how much time you can spend in a dungeon, so you need to sort of like beeline your way towards the end. Now you can use the charge command, which will slowly regenerate fuel, but not always the best option. Now, this is... I might be misremembering it, but this might be wrong. There's supposed to be a... okay, so... yeah, that's a death blow ability that we really shouldn't have. But there's also like a power level infinity, which you can potentially achieve past level 3, which is much more powerful. But I didn't get there. And I don't know if I could have. I'll gain some levels. How good that does me. The gear combat system is a little bit simpler. It's different enough that you need to have different strategies for each different kind of fight, but it's a little bit simpler, and I've heard people criticize this game for the simplicity of the gear battles. No, I don't think they're so simple that it's trivial. I think the having to retain the fuel system is kind of a complicating issue that makes you have to employ some strategy. Is that it? Is that it? No, it's not. Okay. So Doc here knows what's going on. He doesn't, I don't think he's so knowledgeable that he understands the concepts of like trying to resurrect the ancient weapon system, but he understands the story to the level of the civilization of people living in the sky that are trying to control the world. He understands it up to that point. So he knows that they have plans for Faye, that he knows that Faye has a lot of power, and he knows that Faye has dissociative identity disorder, so he's got multiple personalities rolling around in his head. And there's one that named Id, who has a much firmer control over the power that he possesses. So this battle is an attempt to draw the id personality out and have him basically kill everybody. And Doc knows that, and he knows that if it happens here, the entire village will be destroyed. So here you have to be continued. Really? That's where it ends? When they showed Timothy about to get gunned down. Timothy... Oh, look at this. Oh, okay, this is Bart's base, underground base, and that's his sand submarine, if that makes any sense to you. It's actually a pretty cool concept. It's a submarine that can travel in the deserts, because the kingdom he lives in has a lot of deserts. Travels in the sand underground, and it becomes your sort of base that your characters live on. And since it's a mobile base, it's always with you. The scene's going on for a bit too long. I like the soundtrack in this game. It's not huge. It doesn't have as many tracks as like the Final Fantasy games, but a lot of the stuff they have is really good. Friggin' T-Rex. This doesn't take place all that long after the end of the demo. This takes place a little bit further into the game. Faye's trying to find Doc in the desert, and he just keeps running into shit. Like this UFO up here. Just another faction in the war to control the planet. It's actually a city floating up there. And that shield that's surrounding it kind of prevents it from being conquered by the other people living in the sky. See, the sand submarine can go in the ocean too eventually, making it a real submarine. That's another cool environment here. The Thames or Thames, whatever you want to call it. Different pronunciations for different cultures again. This is, I never learned how to pronounce the name of this town. I think it might be like Bledovac or something like that. What the hell is this? Oh. This was in Kislev, the train that you hopped on to sneak into the battle arena. It's been a number of years since I played this game, so... It's one of my favorites from childhood, but that's Billy's Gear at the orphanage. It's one of my favorite games from my childhood, but it's also one that I haven't played in a decade, so... You know, I played it a little bit, just I haven't played through it in a decade. So a lot of this stuff... this scene actually takes place in that UFO. I don't know how this kid knows everything that she knows. See what I tell you, battery boy. Id was taking control. Alright, this is definitely not a scene that happens in the game. Yeah, this doesn't happen. It's Choo Choo there, one of the more inconsequential characters. You know, I don't think this happens either. What the hell's this? I mean, I know where we are. We're in that UFO, but on one of the floating platforms that floats around the city? I don't know about that. I don't remember that. I know there was a scene with Choo Choo there where when Ellie disappears, Choo Choo sort of like takes the place of her gear and sort of like stands there. But that wasn't where that scene took place, so that's weird. Oh, okay, so this is the... Oh, that was in the cathedral there. Another one of the really good-looking environments in this game. There's a lot of, like, religious imagery, allegory, and reinterpretation that goes on in this game. And that was maybe one of the reasons why it didn't get the full treatment in the US, was because they expected people to be offended by it. And maybe some people were, but in general, the people who played this game loved it. Okay, so this episode's been going on for nearly an hour. That was a long demo. I guess maybe all of the Square demos are going to be. But anyway, there we go. Well, anyway, I have an actual entire video series, a Let's Play, playing through the entire game. It was the first one that I released for this YouTube channel. If you want to go find out more about this game and you don't feel like playing it, I'd suggest you play it. Don't watch my dumbass go through it. You can go watch my videos, though. Although, honestly, the quality was not good. It was the first one I did. I didn't have even a reasonable idea about audio levels, so there are a lot of episodes where you can't even hear me, and it was, well, let's just say I didn't have, I wasn't very experienced with it, so I spent a lot of time babbling on about nothing, sort of like I did here, and it also wasn't a live commentary like I'm doing here, where I talk about the game as I'm playing it. It was one where I recorded the footage and then recorded the commentary over it. And so there was no excuse for the bad audio levels, but also it kind of has a different feel to it than what I'm doing here. So in other words, it's not very good. So I've actually been toying with the idea of just playing through the game again and doing another Let's Play to replace the original. Because I do kind of want to play through this game again. It's that good that I want to play through it again. I feel like I can do a much better job with the video series, though. Plus, I kind of want to put together a trailer for the game, and I need a lot of gameplay footage to do that. So, you know what, I'll take that into consideration. But, oh my god, an hour and, like, 30 seconds. Okay. Bye.